There is an arrangement that everyone knows about, and almost nobody talks about openly. Older men with money, young women with ambition, secret apartments, private meetings, an understanding between two people that the rest of the world is never supposed to see. Every crime has a surface story that everyone talks about, and a dark truth underneath that nobody wants to say out loud. The scandal, the culture, the people who made it possible, the system that looked away. Every Saturday, we go beneath the surface. Dark Chronicles. Africa. The crime. The scandal. The truth. Her name is Chidinma Ojukwu. She was 21 years old, a student at the University of Lagos. She had dreams, plans, and a future that stretched far ahead of her. His name was Usifo Ataga. He was 50 years old, married, a father, the CEO of Super TV, one of Nigeria's most recognized streaming platforms, a man at the absolute peak of his career. On the night of June 12, 2021, they were together in a short-let apartment in Lekki Lagos.
Must take the risk.
A meeting that was supposed to stay secret, a night that nobody was supposed to know about. Usifo Ataga never left that apartment alive. She was convicted. She was sentenced to death. The case appeared to be closed. But the one question that Nigeria has never been able to answer, the question that changes everything about this story, is this. Was Chidinma Ojukwu really alone in that apartment when Usifo Ataga died? To understand what happened on that June night, you first need to understand who Usifo Ataga was, not the public version. The real one? Publicly, Usifo Ataga was successful, respected, and established. Super TV under his leadership had grown into a recognizable brand in Nigeria's competitive streaming market. He had a career that most people would spend a lifetime trying to build. He had a family, a wife, children, a life that looked from the outside like everything a man could want. But like many powerful men in Nigeria, there was another life running quietly alongside the public one. A life of short-let apartments, of secret meetings, of arrangements that powerful men make with young women and never speak about openly. In Nigeria, this world has a name that everyone knows, and almost nobody says out loud. The sugar daddy culture. Older men with money and influence. Young women navigating a system that offers them very few legitimate pathways to the life they want. It is not a simple story of victims and predators. It is a complicated, uncomfortable, deeply Nigerian story that this case forced into the open in a way that nobody was prepared for. Usifo Ataga was part of that world. And on June 12, 2021, that world caught up with him in the most final and irreversible way possible. Chidinma Ojukwu was 21 years old at the time of Usifo Ataga's death. She was a 300-level student at the University of Lagos, one of Nigeria's most prestigious universities. By every external measure, she was a young woman with a future. But university in Nigeria is expensive. Living in Lagos is expensive. Being young and ambitious in a city that rewards money above almost everything else is expensive. And the gap between the life Chidinma had and the life she could see all around her in Lagos was wide. How exactly Chidinma and Usifo Ataga met has never been fully established on public record. What we know is that by June 2021, they had an arrangement. The details of what exactly that arrangement looked like, what it cost her, what it cost him, what lines it crossed, are things that the court proceedings touched on, but never fully answered. What we know for certain is that on the night of June 12, 2021, Chidinma Ojukwu and Usifo Ataga checked into a short-let apartment together in the Lekki area of Lagos. It was not the first time. It would be the last. And what happened inside that apartment after the door closed? is where this story gets complicated in ways that Nigeria is still arguing about today. June 12, 2021, Democracy Day in Nigeria, a public holiday. Lagos was quieter than usual, streets emptier, people at home. Inside that short-let apartment in Lekki, something was happening that would send shockwaves across the entire country within days. The details of what exactly took place inside that apartment that night have been told in different versions by different people. But what the physical evidence showed was this: Usifo Ataga was found with multiple stab wounds. He had been stabbed in the neck and chest repeatedly. The nature and number of the wounds told investigators that this was not a single moment of panic. This was sustained violence. He was found dead inside the apartment. Chidinma Ojukwu was not in the apartment when the body was discovered. She had left, and she had not left empty-handed. She had Usifo Ataga's phone, his laptop, and she had accessed his bank accounts, making withdrawals after his death. Multiple transactions. Money taken from a dead man's account while his body was still inside that apartment. When police found Chidinma Ojukwu, the evidence against her was immediate and overwhelming. What happened next is the part of this story that split Nigeria down the middle. Chidinma Ojukwu confessed, in front of cameras, in front of police. She admitted to stabbing Usifo Ataga. She described the events of that night. She said she did it. The confession spread across Nigerian social media within hours. People watched it. They shared it. They argued about it. And many Nigerians, seeing a young woman calmly describe killing a man, made up their minds immediately. She was a killer. Case closed. But then, Chidinma Ojukwu took it back. In court, she recanted her confession entirely. She said she had not acted alone. She suggested other people were involved in what happened inside that apartment. She said the confession had been made under circumstances that she later challenged. And this is where the case stopped being simple. Because a confession given and then withdrawn raises questions that a courtroom does not always answer cleanly. Was the original confession the truth? Was the withdrawal the truth? Or was the reality of what happened inside that Lekki apartment something more complicated than either version? Nigeria argued about this for months. It is still arguing about it now. Her sister Chisom was also arrested, accused of helping sell Usifo Ataga's belongings after his death. Two sisters, one dead man, and a story that kept getting darker the deeper investigators went. Here is what the Chidinma Ojukwu case did that no other case in recent Nigerian history managed to do. It forced Nigeria to have a conversation it had been avoiding for a very long time. The sugar daddy culture in Nigeria is not a secret. Everyone knows it exists. Older men of means and influence, young women, students, graduates, women trying to survive in cities that are brutally expensive, entering arrangements that blur lines that should never be blurred. When Chidinma's story broke, the internet immediately divided into two camps. One side saw a cold, calculated young woman who murdered a man for money. The other side saw a young girl who had been drawn into a world designed by and for the powerful men who created it, and who paid the highest possible price when that world turned violent. Neither of those versions is completely comfortable, and that discomfort is exactly why this case matters beyond the crime itself. Because Usifo Ataga was not an innocent bystander. He was a married man who chose to bring a 21-year-old girl into a secret apartment on a public holiday. That does not make his death justified. Nothing makes his death justified. He had a family. He had children. He did not deserve to die. But the full picture of what happened in that apartment cannot be understood without acknowledging the world that both of them were operating inside. Nigeria has never fully reckoned with that. And until it does, cases like this one will keep happening. The trial of Chidinma Ojukwu proceeded through Nigeria's court system across 2022 and into 2023. It attracted intense media attention at every stage. Her defense team worked to challenge the confession, raise questions about other people who may have been involved, and present Chidinma as someone whose full story had not been told in the original police account. The prosecution presented the physical evidence, the stab wounds, the stolen phone and laptop, the bank withdrawals made after Ataga's death, the CCTV footage, the original confession. Their case was built on evidence that was difficult to argue away. In May 2023, Justice Yetunde Adesanya of the Lagos State High Court delivered the verdict. Chidinma Ojukwu was found guilty of murder. The sentence was death by hanging. She was 23 years old when that sentence was handed down.
This cannot be happening,
She had entered that courtroom as a university student with her whole life ahead of her. She left it on death row. Usifo Ataga's family finally had a verdict. His wife, his children, the people who lost him on that June night in 2021. They had waited 2 years for that moment. But for many Nigerians, the verdict did not feel like the end of the story. Here is what we still do not know. Was Chidinma Ojukwu really alone in that apartment when Usifo Ataga was killed? She said in court that she was not. Those claims were investigated. But the question of whether every person who played a role in what happened that night has been identified and held accountable, that question has never been answered to everyone's satisfaction. Why did she take his phone, his laptop, and access his bank accounts after his death? If this was a moment of panic, the calculated actions that followed suggest a level of composure that does not fit that narrative. But if she was acting under instruction from someone else, who was directing her, and why have they never faced a courtroom? What exactly was the nature of her relationship with Usifo Ataga? Who else knew about it? And were there other people connected to that world who had reason to want what happened in that apartment to happen? 2 people went into that apartment. 1 came out. Only one of them can tell us what really happened. And her version of events has changed more than once.
They made me sign.
Usifo Ataga's children are growing up without their father. His wife carries a loss that began with a secret she was never supposed to find out about. Chidinma Ojukwu sits on death row at 23 years old, and the full truth of what happened on the night of June 12, 2021 in that Lekki apartment may never be completely known. This case is not just about a murder in a Lekki apartment. It is about the secret lives that powerful people lead. It is about the dangerous spaces that young women navigate in a city like Lagos. It is about a justice system doing its job while leaving questions that the job alone cannot answer. Usifo Ataga deserved better than the way his life ended. His family deserved better than learning about his secret life the way they did. And whatever the full truth is about what Chidinma Ojukwu did or did not do inside that apartment, her story is a reminder of how quickly and completely a young life can be destroyed. Now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Chidinma acted alone? Do you think the full truth about that night has ever come out? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe and turn on your notifications because every Saturday, we open another case that Africa needs to talk about. I will see you next Saturday.